Hey, welcome back to another episode of Open Shutter, a Monday edition. And thanks everyone for watching, listening, YouTube, Spotify, Google, wherever this thing is. Thanks for joining in on this conversation. Have the pleasure of welcoming first-time guest Aidan Samuels to the program. He is a Toronto photographer, and he's got his hand in all kinds of things. He just got back from New York, so I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, big thanks to Aidan for jumping on. I'll put all of his links in the description of this video, so go check him out if you're in the Toronto area. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you with regards to whatever your needs are with photography. So, Aidan, thanks again, man. And don't take too much of your time, but welcome back from New York.
Hey, thank you so much, and thanks, Paul, for having me.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. So I know I was just kind of doing a little bit of research for the show, and I see you got your hands in. You're doing a book. You got your portfolio website out. What is it? What is it that you love the most to do? I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, within photography, portraits. That's my main focus.
Okay.
I like taking pictures of people. I find they make the most engaging images. I love being able to connect with people on that level.
Yeah.
Yeah, pictures of people. That's where my heart
Awesome.
is.
Awesome. And what's your did you go to school for this or just kind of like self-taught?
No, yeah. Self-taught. I started off at school for engineering. That's a whole separate story.
Oh, love that.
I left at the beginning of the pandemic when all the classes switched to online, and photography had always been a passion. And I was like, okay, I've got some time on my hands right now. Let me see if I can really give this a shot. So
Yeah,
between that and graphic design, which fills in more of the day-to-day clients, yeah, I've been making it work for the last little bit.
cool, man. So you left engineering during COVID.
Yes, yes.
Wow. So was that like a hard decision to like do, or was it
Um,
always on your mind to kind of like make a change?
yeah, no, absolutely. I was doing okay in the program, like, I had decent grades,
Yeah.
but I wasn't enjoying the data well, it wasn't the program. I wasn't enjoying the potential job prospects at the end. That was the thing, because engineering, you are pretty much guaranteed a decent paying job,
Yeah.
but the market's become so oversaturated that the example I tell people is that they kept bringing in these speakers that were meant to be motivational speakers that were going to be it was meant to be like, hey, I'm Laura, I'm an astronaut, and I went to TMU engineering just like you. And
Yeah.
instead it was, hey, I'm Larry, I work at the factory, I hold a
Yeah.
clipboard.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it had the opposite effect of what they were hoping. I'll put it that way.
Interesting. And what type of engineering was it? Like, what was it?
I was only ever in first year, so that was undeclared, but
Oh,
my plan
undeclared.
was mechanical mechatronics.
Something I know nothing about.
Yeah, I did all the lead up, I did all the high school stuff, I did all the prep, and then
Yeah.
now I'm here in visual arts. So
Wow, that's interesting,
yeah.
man. So yeah, you gotta tell your family and everything, or like what? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Fortunately, I had a lot of support there. Graphic design is the family business, so
okay,
it's sort of
really?
the opposite of a lot of people's stories. I was fortunate to have a lot of support for doing what I do now.
Oh. So your parents are in graphic design.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I always like it's always like I find it fascinating because I think people always want to make a change at whatever stage of life, and it's always like, well, you gotta like tell your family. You always kind of wonder like how they're gonna react, and it's great that you had a supportive environment, which is so important, I think.
I genuinely did. I can't be thankful enough for that.
Yeah, because like engineering and like photography, they're like polar opposites on the spectrum.
Exactly, like, my plan was always, "Okay, get the engineering degree, do the program, get a job,
Yeah,
and then, do photography on the side." Because that's one thing I find, between photography and graphic design, I'm very glad that I have both, and I'm very glad that photography isn't I'd say photography is probably it's 80/20 graphic design to photography in terms of
right.
actual work hours, and I'm very glad for that because photography is the real passion, and I feel like if that was 80% of the time, 80% of the income, that
Yeah,
could get burnt out a lot easier. Instead, I
yeah,
have something vaguely similar, another visual art form that I can integrate photography into. I do
yeah,
get to intersect the 2 quite often, but
right.
especially because I can, spend work time on work and passion photography time when I'm working on projects, I can work on that on my own, and every once in a while when I can get a dedicated photography client in the same space as what I'm doing
Yeah,
for the passion work, that's the best overlap.
cool. Interesting, man. So like how long did it take you during COVID? Like how long did it take you to kind of get up and running with regards to
Yeah.
like skills and clients and all that?
So I had actually already started in that previously. Through high school, I had started building a client base. I was doing portrait headshot shoots probably in the 10th and 11th grade. I was just I wore fake glasses and I was just very cagey about how old I was or not. I feel like I
Oh,
could
really?
pull off acting a little bit older to work
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like I don't know, photography in general, I think it went back to I don't know, my like first iPod Touch with a camera, going around taking pictures of little leaves on the ground, trying to start an
Okay.
Instagram account out of that. But yeah, no. So I already had a bit of an established client base. I had already done that initial marketing push that it sort of netted me everyone else through word of mouth. So
Mhm.
obviously there wasn't much in the dead of the pandemic, but
Right.
over the next few years, I was fortunate enough to get a number of clients
Oh,
that
interesting.
really exactly, yeah.
Brand new clients.
Oh yeah, like a decent range. I've
Yeah,
worked with a lot of brands, I've worked with a lot of individuals. My favorite to work with are other artists. So I've
right.
gotten to do a lot of work for local musicians' album covers and stuff like that. Album covers are my favorite all round, especially if I can integrate portraiture into that because you get a ton of creative freedom, a ton of creative expression, and you get to work on that with another creative person.
Interesting.
I've done headshots for illustrators, I've done headshots for other artists,
Okay.
things along those lines. I've done a little bit of corporate stuff. I did some work with Nissan a few years ago.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So it's solid.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
It's
decent.
solid.
Today I just got home, got all this set up. I came
Yeah,
back
yeah,
from doing a product photo shoot
yeah.
for a company that's going to be selling some new to the market plant accessories for growing
Okay.
plants at home. I'll leave it at that. I don't know
Yeah,
how secretive
yeah,
they're being,
sure,
but
sure. So I guess for the people watching and listening, like how would like what's your advice in terms of like pitching clients? Like
mhm.
what are some mistakes to avoid? Like kind of from your own personal experience, like how would you pitch someone in like a general sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main focus with clients is I don't focus too much on the administrative side. Obviously, I have to have everything laid out. I have my contracts, I have my
Right.
invoices, but my real goal, if the client's willing to work with me on it, is to just get them the images that they're looking for in the way that they are. For example, I don't offer a set limit on the number of images I give in a photo shoot. I will
Okay.
take as many as I can. I will edit as many as fit for the project, and I will give that
Okay.
back. So that's one of those things I offer. In terms of recommendations for sort of you're saying pitfalls and stuff like that.
Yeah, like
The main thing yeah, yeah. The main thing I can recommend that I've seen new photographers do is 2 things. One is, I hate to say it, but you do have to make sure you're ready to work with clients before you start. Client management and your skill at a craft are 2 completely separate skills.
mhm, mhm,
So you can be the best photographer out there, uh, and not know how to manage the clients, and that can be
mhm.
very difficult, and I was fortunate to have the background in client management from graphic design work going back
Yeah,
into high school,
right,
so I was able to translate that quite well. So that's one of the things I can recommend is just, figure out what you're going to offer, figure out your own boundaries. Don't be responding to people outside of work hours unless that's what you want to be there
right.
doing things like that. Obviously, that's not a hard and fast rule, but little things like that that add up over time. Um, so in terms of pitfalls, I would also say don't sell yourself short. I see a lot of photographers right when they're starting offering very cheap packages, and that's not the end of the world. It's great to build that experience. And
Yeah.
contrary to what some people say, I don't think it's the worst to do work for free. That just has to be your call and not the client's call.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, but working for free.
Yes.
Like, I'm in the mindset of, like like, it's not really free because you are
Mhm.
getting the experience. Like, you talked about, like, client management skills. If you've never worked with a client before, you have no idea, like, what's gonna happen because each client is different. So,
Yeah.
for me, if you're able to, like, work for free in quotation marks, it's not really because you're getting that experience, right? It's not like, I don't know, I tell people all the time, like, just pretend you have the job. If you wanna work for Nissan, start taking pictures of Nissan. Maybe go into a car dealership and say, "Hey, I'm looking to, like, build a portfolio." You just never know what's gonna happen, and you never know
Mhm.
who's, like, watching or listening. So, yeah, we're like, working for free, it is a tricky line, but if you I think if you you use it to your advantage, I think it'd be quite to your advantage because people like people that take initiative.
Mhm.
You
Exactly,
know
you
what I
can
mean?
work I would say work for free for experience, don't work for free for exposure.
Yeah,
That
well, that's
would be
the
how
thing,
I
right?
would
The
put it.
client's gonna say, "Oh, I can't pay you, but I'll give you exposure," and
Yeah.
that's the wrong way to look at it, right?
And like I said, again, make sure you're within your means to be doing that, make sure within anything else,
Yeah,
but it's a common phrase you hear is that "Never work for free, never do that," and I don't think that that's the worst, you just have to do that in moderation and what feels
yeah,
right for yourself.
yeah, I think so. I think, because how else like, how else will you get that experience, right? Because, like, especially in Toronto where it's such a saturated market,
Mhm, mhm.
um, you need to separate yourself somehow. If you're gonna
Yeah.
go into, like, an interview or to, like, a client call and, well, what can you do? Like, I always tell people, like, show versus tell. Like, don't tell people what you do, just show them.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
I mean, "Here, this is what I do," and they'll get it instead of you
Yeah.
trying to explain it, and they're trying to, like, think about it in their head, and they probably get it wrong, right? So, you definitely need something to show someone.
Absolutely,
You know what I
and
mean?
you touched on their like, I don't think you used these words, but in carving out a niche, right?
Yeah.
That's also
Well,
another really specific thing you can
yeah,
do, and that niche can exist both in the work that you offer and in that client management side.
yeah,
Like, I take a lot of pride in being very friendly and agreeable with clients. That's I think
sure.
that's inherent to my personality, dare I say so.
Yeah,
But yeah, I feel like that friendliness comes across with people. I genuinely wanna help people with
yeah,
their cameras, with their work, everything else like that. So I'm a that's one side of things, and on the, on the niche side, I do a lot of stuff with film, and a lot of film cameras can pull from. So, yeah, like, you even hearing me talk about it, I'll spend 10% of the time talking about the technical niche that I can offer and the rest about I guess customer service, I suppose I would put it.
yeah, and because these are all, like, different, like, skill sets, right? In terms of, like, first of all, you need the skill set of photography, then you need a skill set in client management, then you need a skill set in, like, marketing and,
Mm.
brands and all that. Like, these are all, like, full-time jobs for people, and we're com
Oh, if you can still hear me, I think you've frozen there. I have a response to this if we can get this connected back up.
and we're back. Did I
Oh,
lose
we're
you?
back?
Did I lose you? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we
I'll just
lost
say
we lost you in a moment there.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just saying that it's not we're combining all these skill sets, in terms of,
mhm,
like, photography and, like, business and marketing and client management, customer service. These are all, like, full-time jobs for people, so
yeah, and
it's not easy.
30, 50 years ago, these were all completely separate jobs. You go to an
Exactly,
agency, and there's a person at the
exactly.
front desk who talks to a person who does the invoices, who sends out the photographer. You
Yep.
have someone else who loads your film for you back then, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's become very centralized with the internet. You don't just have to be a photographer, you have to be a social
no.
media manager
Yes,
and 18 other things
yes.
to really put everything together, and you hear a lot of people saying that, so yeah, not an original thought from me, but,
Yeah, yeah.
one worth pointing
Well,
out.
that's just the power of, like, the times we live in where, you don't really need to ask permission. You just kinda, like, do it and kinda put yourself out there, and you just see what happens, right? Because,
Yeah,
like I said, people like people first of all, people buy from people too, right? Like, if you come across genuine and someone can trust you, they'll buy from you, right? You could be, like, the best photographer in the world, but if someone can't trust you, they won't buy. So as long as people trust you, then you're in a much better place. So I always find, don't try to, like, be fake with clients because they'll see right through that. And if
right,
not right then, eventually they will, and then they're gonna regret hiring that person, right? So,
yeah.
you gotta be real. But yeah, no, it's good, man. It's good. Like, these are really good tips. I was asking you offline about, like, I know that you're into film, so, like, how would someone that's steadfast into, like, the DSLR mirrorless world, how would you pitch them to, like, not convert to film, but at least try film? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, so I'll be the first to admit it's not better, it's just different.
Right.
Same as vinyl or anything else in that space. I can't say it's gonna be better quality than a digital image, not these days anymore, it well, maybe once was.
Yeah.
It's different. The main thing that I find for myself is that it slows me down and forces me to get, you know, 10 good shots per roll as opposed to 10 good shots in a memory card of 20,000 images.
Right.
So or in a day's shoot of 20,000 images.
Yeah.
Um, so on the whole, I think the main pitch I can give is a psychological component.
Okay.
For myself, I
Okay.
like working with the analog equipment. I like working with the mechanical gear. I really enjoy the process. But moreover, it's about the fact that it slows you down. It makes you really consider every shot, and even the fact that there's a delay before getting your images back that
Yeah.
makes things a bit more special. And yes, you could not look at your memory card. You could fold your screen in and not look at your
Anyone
memory
does
card for a
no
week,
one
and
does that.
exactly, but it's all these things together. It's not any one of the factors that film cameras offer. It's not just the mechanical camera. You can get digital cameras that have the same aesthetic. It's
Yeah.
not just the delay in your images or a limited number. You could create that with older technology or by physically limiting your memory card. It's all of the things brought together. I
Interesting.
do find there. Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, it's cool. It's good.
Oh,
Keep
yeah.
going. Yeah.
I do find that there is one thing that film genuinely does still do better than digital, which is high
Okay.
dynamic range.
Yeah.
I
What is that for people that don't
Oh, yes, of
understand?
course.
Yeah.
The dynamic range of any given scene is the range between the darkest and lightest tone in your image.
Right.
So, typically, your human eye is gonna see a much wider range of tones than any camera can capture. Some top-end cinema stuff is starting to get to that point these days,
Yeah.
but on the whole, if you have a nice look over a landscape, the backside of a tree that's facing towards you away from the sun, that shadow, you're gonna still be able to make out detail on that with your eyes, the same as you're gonna be able to make out detail on the leaves in the distance. A camera, especially an older, early digital camera, may see the back of that tree is pure black and the sky is pure white.
Right.
And, as the tech has come around, cameras are starting to get higher and higher dynamic range in their base images. Moreover, though, there's a lot of advancements in multi-shot images and in a lot of other things and tricks to get a lot more dynamic range into one final image. Pretty much any smartphone camera is going to be having that built in these days. I think it's part of what a lot of people see as the smartphone look to photography is
Right.
that high dynamic range look.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have yet to see a digital camera outside of maybe what ARRI is doing with their cinema cameras
Yeah.
that can match the level of dynamic range that negative film has, that print film has, um, without starting to look very artificial. It's
Mm.
something that I do not fully understand. I don't know how it can really pull those tones together, but it's one thing I like. You take, it's a little cliche, but it works. You take your Portra 400, expose it at +1 stop,
Yeah.
and you're getting detail in the shadows, detail in the highlights, and it
Right.
all looks very natural in
Mm.
that final image. The tone curve that's built in is something that is very difficult, if not impossible, to replicate in editing. So
Right.
that is one
Okay.
technical side of
Okay.
film
That's
that
a
I
good
do
pitch, though.
genuinely appreciate.
Yeah, that's a good pitch. And what do you like? And what are you shooting with now in terms of your gear for film?
Well, people ask me that
Yeah.
question, and my answer is everything.
Everything that shops.
I have a sort of
Interesting.
rotating collection of film cameras. The
Okay.
mainstays are a Hasselblad 500 series. I have a Leica M7. I'm enjoying that. I'll probably sell it
Yeah.
at some point. I'm not particularly attached to the Leica system. A Nikon F3 is to this day one of my favorite 35 millimeter cameras. It's not the most expensive you can get, but it's probably the best value for money in any film camera out there.
Interesting.
And half a dozen other things. I've really been enjoying the Pentax 6.7 for the last year or so.
Oh, wow.
I
How
went
do you
in the Yeah, sir?
how do you de de decide, what to shoot with?
Yeah, to me, that's part of the fun, right? Again, no one needs this many cameras, and again, I'm a photographer first, any collecting is second, although I think I've always enjoyed that growing up. It gave me an odd sense of joy to have, like, every toy in a particular set of things. I was fortunate enough to often be able to have that. I do recognize that that's a fortunate position to be in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it gives me a lot of joy to be able to, like, get up, look at the camera shelf, decide what I'm taking with me for that day, and go
Oh,
based on very niche differences. A Rolleiflex with a planar lens and a Hasselblad with the same planar lens are not gonna give you different images, but it's about the experience. It's about stuff like
right.
that. So for New York, I went with just the Rolleiflex 2.8. And the reason I chose that is because of the visual aesthetic of that camera, not because of my I don't wanna that's not because I'm gonna feel all cool walking around with a twin lens reflex, but more because it catches people's attention. And my real goal on that trip was to get street portraits, was to sort of meet new people, to have those
Okay.
conversations, and it really worked for that. Walking around
Nice.
Toronto alone, if I'm walking around doing street photography with a roll in the Rolleiflex, I would say 5 to 6 out of those 12 frames are gonna be people saying, "Oh, hey, cool camera. Can you take my picture?" So I
Ah,
get a lot of pictures I wouldn't
cool.
otherwise get the opportunity to take with that camera, and, yeah,
Interesting.
that worked quite well in New York. I still got everything just barely scanned into Lightroom. I have
Yeah.
not, fully edited, so I don't have much I can show at this time, but over the next little bit, you'll probably start seeing that on my social media and website.
That's cool, man. So I mean, like the camera's almost like an icebreaker too with people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll have people coming up to me, all ages, all ranges, often older people saying like, "Hey, my dad had one of those back in the day. I haven't seen one of
Yeah.
those in 50 years." I had, like, I think 2 or 3 odd cases of that alone. So,
It's
yeah,
cool.
it's again, that connection with people is my favorite part of portraiture, both in client work and in street portraits, and just in life. I like getting to connect with people.
Yeah,
So
and that's the great thing
yeah.
about photography is that you're able to like freeze a moment, right? And you're able to like have a moment with someone. So
Exactly, exactly, and, film cameras do serve as a really great icebreaker, as a really great
yeah,
tool to assist in that.
yeah,
Again, so the outside perception of the camera you're using, it doesn't affect your images, but it does affect the types of images you get.
right. Okay, okay. So for someone that's just starting to film, what's a camera that you would recommend to someone just starting out?
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
I would definitely say if you have the technical skill and you're comfortable with it, go for a manual SLR.
right,
Still go for something with an automatic mode. Go for something with an aperture priority mode.
right.
Even if you're not using it, you're using the manual settings, it's worth it to not have a fully mechanical camera and have one of those settings be automatic when you're getting started.
Yeah.
My best recommendation is a Nikon FE.
Okay.
They are under $200 Canadian with a lens these days. Um, you have
Nice.
access to the full Nikon lens system, so you're gonna get some of the best glass ever made for film cameras. You're getting the bright viewfinder that they built off the best knowledge of the F2 and F3.
Yeah.
Actually, did it come before or after the F3? Whatever. Built off the best knowledge of the F series cameras before it. And it's just probably one of the most pleasant, beginner friendly cameras I've ever used.
Interesting. Cool.
A lot of people want to go for the Canon AE1 because it's the classic camera. People associate Canon with photography, and I'm pretty sure if you Google image search film camera, the first entire page is going to be Canon AE1s.
Yeah.
Um, that said, they have an electromagnet release that fails very often. The FD lens system is okay. Some standout gems, but just on the whole, and
Yeah.
most importantly, they are shutter priority and
Mhm.
not aperture priority, which
Mhm.
for beginners can be usually people are going to be wanting to control their aperture for creative effect
Yeah.
before they're wanting you going to be wanting to lock in their shutter speed.
Mhm. Interesting, interesting. And where can people buy these cameras? I guess in the Toronto area, is
Yeah.
there a good place to buy them?
In the Toronto area,
Yeah.
Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, that's always my best recommendation. I
Okay.
personally do buy and sell a lot of cameras.
There
I
you
have
go.
on my website a little web store tacked onto the side there. I know that's what you're getting at.
Okay. Alright.
I do that. I do that as a hobby and as networking. I don't do that as a business. I sell stuff
Right.
mostly at cost to myself, or at least at cost to fund the next camera that comes in. Like I said, I genuinely enjoy making those connections. I like being able to say, "Hey, yeah, I've got a point and shoot for you if you're looking."
Cool.
So yeah, no, unlike I guess some other resellers, I don't it's not a business. It's for
Mhm.
the connection, for the fun, but I
Yeah.
do have a decent range of cameras. I do love tabling at camera shows. Next one
Okay.
of those at some point in November. I gotta figure that one out. But yeah, yeah.
Cool. Do you also develop your film too, or take your film in?
Yeah, so I have and can do home development for black and
Okay.
white. I enjoy it. I actually work at one of the labs in Toronto. I work at Aidan Camera, coincidence on the name. So some of you watching may know me from that. I do find a lot of people recognize me from the camera store. I'll be out in the street taking pictures. I'll go,
Yeah.
"Hey,"
And like
I feel like, "Hey, I totally know your name."
it's
Um,
that's
yeah,
funny,
but
man.
yeah, so because I'm always at the lab, I'm in close proximity, I'm mostly shooting C41 film where I am looking to get the most quality and dynamic range out of it, so I do typically, bring all my film into the lab there.
Okay. All right. So go there then, basically.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Aidan. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I'm a big fan of
That's
Aidan
cool.
Camera's development. 1 hour
Yeah.
service on C41 film,
Oh,
$7
really?
for dev only. I think we're the only place that offers 1 hour in Toronto, as far as I know.
Okay.
And yeah, decent pricing, 1 hour service.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, I mean, you were just saying about like not having like the instant gratification of having the photo on the back of the screen. You have to wait. So I'm sure you
Yeah,
see people walk into the store and they're so excited to get their film, right? Because
yeah. And it's always fun to
an
tell people who
anticipation,
weren't
right? It's an
yeah.
anticipation of
Exactly. It's
yeah,
also always fun to tell people who weren't expecting it that they're going to get it today. Like,
yeah,
it's always
exactly.
like I was a customer there before I worked there, and
Yeah,
I'd drop off my film, I go get a coffee, come back, and it'd be done already.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely an experience, right? Because it's like that waiting game that we're just so not used to anymore. That
Yeah.
it's kind of cool, you know. And then when you actually get photos and you see that you've nailed a few shots, it's a really good feeling.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's and yeah, like the part the main reason I'm working there, I've started doing it as, in high school as a part-time job, and I've kept it
Oh,
up a couple days a week ever since just because I genuinely enjoy being
yeah,
there. I
yeah,
like having those conversations with customers and building on what you were saying, I like getting to talk to people when they're looking through their prints or looking through their scans on their phone. I'm so excited over that. It's something we can
yeah.
really bond over.
No doubt, no doubt.
So yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's a great way just to keep learning too, because
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
always in that environment.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. It keeps you on top of the new digital stuff just so you're informed, but,
Right.
it keeps you really involved in the community. Like, I would
Yeah.
say a very big chunk of my networking and connections has come through that job over time, so I really do genuinely enjoy being there.
Interesting, man. And just speaking about that, I was gonna plug your book here. I'm gonna put on the screen.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, talk about that real quick if you like. How did this come about, I guess?
Okay, yes. So this was a project I'd always wanted to do. I'd always wanted to put together a photo book. That was my one of my little life bucket list things, and
Mhm.
I never really had a solid idea on what. It felt too pretentious to put my work alone into a book. Like, I'm quite pleased with it. I would love to have people having copies of my work in the book form, but I never had any particular project or series that fit that wouldn't just be for me to have in the
Right.
book. I wanted it to be something that people would enjoy, not just for the fact that it's some pretty pictures in the book. And through all of the buy and sell I was doing, I noticed I'm taking all these really high quality pictures of cameras, and I'm doing a ton of research and writing up descriptions so I can give informed answers about how all the features work. And so for every camera I buy and sell, I'd be taking some really high quality pictures and a nice backdrop, and I would be writing up a description not just on the item and its condition, but how it was to use it, recommendations for different skill levels. And I think that was what gave me a lot of early success on Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, where I was doing that advertising before I had my web store. Was just I feel like once again my thing of trying to connect to people. I think that really showed through. Was that, hey, this is not just someone selling a camera. This is someone actually trying to help you use it. And
I love it.
eventually, I had the realization that I wanted to make a book. I had a lot of this information already put together, so I was able to really format that into a format. So the book itself is a coffee table book of 30 odd historical cameras.
Okay.
Some are ones that are sentimental to me, some are ones that are generally historically significant, others are ones that are just fun and weird. Like we've got the Minox camera in there, got the Canon Pelix in there, some just unusual fun cameras. The whole thing is sorted into 3 chapters, which are the classics, the good stuff, and let's get weird, which are, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory by those titles. But,
Cool, man.
yeah, um, it wasn't just all recycled content or anything from the Kijiji postings. It was mostly new written stuff for the book project. It took me the best part of a year to sort of pull everything together.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to have a connection through Fujifilm Printing, so I was able to get them to print sort of a hardcover book to exactly my specification, which was wonderful.
Nice. It looks good.
Thank you, thank you. I did a limited print run.
Yeah.
I've got a small handful left.
Okay.
I think at this point it would be under 20 left.
Oh,
But, Yeah, no, it was a fun thing. It was never once again, like the cameras, it was never a big marketing push to say, "Hey, come here, buy my book." It was I'd have a great conversation with someone. I
Yeah,
throw it in at the end, and sometimes you get someone to be able to take a piece of that conversation home with them. So it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun just to be able to download a lot of knowledge into a physical object as well. Because
yeah.
I got a lot of this stuff kicking around my head. I shouldn't know exactly what year the Canon A1 was released and
Why
everything
not?
through then.
Why
But well, maybe, I don't know, but it was fun to get it out of my head and into a physical
Right.
object, and,
Yeah. And it feels good too because it's something that you made, right? Like
yeah, no, exactly.
feels
It
good.
was it's amazing to be able to get to bring something like that to life.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You planning to write like another one, you think, eventually?
Yeah, actually. I was originally playing with the idea of getting another camera book out there because this doesn't have everything. This has just had
Right.
sort of ones I got to have myself, right? So, it's missing the Mamiya 7. This was before I got into Rolleiflex, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, that said, I a project I have no idea if or when this is going to come together, but um, on the idea of sort of downloading knowledge into a physical object,
Yeah.
I'm currently working on a book that is all tips and tricks for film photography.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the idea is every sort of intermediate niche technique from how reciprocity failure works to how to switch a 35 millimeter roll in the middle to how film actually chemically works to a decent range of samples of different film stocks. The idea to have all of that as a little softcover handbook that you can throw in a bag and have
Mm,
all these things in one place
interesting.
that you can carry with you.
Like a
So,
Cole's note,
that's something that's coming together.
almost like a Cole's notes for like for like film photography.
Exactly, exactly.
Interesting, man. That could be pretty big.
I can hope so, I can hope so. My goal as well is to get this one at a cheaper sale cost. Going with the Grain Book, the first one,
Mm,
it cost me $63.11 Canadian per book to produce, and I just sold it rounded up to 70.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
did break even luckily in the end,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I definitely wanna be able to give people something that's a little bit more, economical as well.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, it's very useful because I think, especially when people are starting into film, it can be pretty intimidating. So if someone can have like a little Cole's notes with them,
Exactly,
that's
exactly.
cool, man. That's that's awesome. I like that idea.
Thank
People
you, thank
helping
you.
people, which I like.
Yeah, and again,
You know what I mean?
it's what I like to do. I like getting to talk to people about cameras. I like getting to help people
Yeah.
with stuff, and if I can bring those 2 together into one thing, I would
Yeah.
love to be able to do that.
Yeah. Like people shouldn't hold on to their knowledge thinking that it's gonna ruin them. People should like share their knowledge because that's how we all learn. But
Exactly.
so we're all learning all the time. I mean, you're never really done, really.
100%,
And when you
100%.
think you're done, it's like, oh well, you better think again, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it just keeps going, right? So I mean, like, what are some things that you want to learn? I guess like are there
Oh,
things you want to learn this year, next year?
no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I really wanna start doing um, some more let's see, how would I phrase it? Well, I would say some more artistically meaningful photography. I
Okay.
do a lot of stuff that I'm very satisfied with how it looks and how it feels to look at, but I've never really delved into real emotional storytelling or real artistic narratives, and I don't know, I feel part of that is a lot of that has to come from within. I feel like I've never really had that big of a well to draw from. I've been fortunate enough not to have many crazy struggles in life or things along those lines to pull from, and no, not that that's what you need to pull from, but,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my main goal. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but I wanna create a project that has a greater meaning than the visual of the images included.
Okay. So more of like people's story.
Yeah, no,
Are you trying to
absolutely.
do
I will say if I'm sure many people say the same thing, but if Humans of New York hadn't been done and
that?
done and
Yeah.
done and done already, I'd
Yeah.
probably be doing something along those lines. I
Yeah.
have I have some ideas in the same space, although hopefully
Yeah.
trying to carve out a niche within that.
And would you wanna, like, make a book out of that too, you think?
Yeah, photo
Yeah.
books to me have
Yeah.
always represented the end goal of where my work ends up, which I know doesn't make the most sense. A physical book is not the best way to distribute your work these days,
Mhm.
but I use social media. I enjoy it. I use it for social purposes. If you see my Instagram, I'm posting behind the scenes stuff. I'm posting a couple of my favorite shots, but I'm not posting photography with the intention of getting it out there.
Right.
My website's where I put my actual work, the stuff I'm proud of, the stuff I want to share. But the Instagram itself is half life stuff, half behind the scenes, all through the lens of photography. Because I think everywhere I go, I'm going to have a camera. All the images I take are probably going to be of decent quality for that purpose.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I really want to find different and unique ways of spreading the work and getting it out there. And for
Mm,
whatever reason, to me, physical books have always represented that nth degree. To some people, it's getting their work on traditional media like TV and radio, or to some
mm,
people, it is social media fame to have those millions of followers. To me, for whatever reason, it's always been having your work inside of a physical object, whether that's a
yeah.
print that you're selling or a book that you can
Yeah.
produce.
I agree. I think there's definitely something to be said about having your work in a physical form. Like
Mhm.
it feels different, you
Yeah,
know?
no, absolutely, and
Feels,
again, that's not for everyone, and it's not even for me for every project, but
yeah.
that is where I'm the happiest having my work.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I think honestly, yeah, I think I said this the other day, but I think a lot of people just want to be like seen and heard,
Yeah,
right? Like, it doesn't matter like what the platform is, but I mean, I think a lot of people just want to be seen and heard. So, I just had someone on last week on the show where basically he was kind of he was kind of focusing on people that had like disabilities and kind of
mm,
going through like their struggles. So, I mean, he said it was pretty eye opening. So, lot of stories out there. A lot of I think sometimes I get stuck in my own head and you don't realize like what other people are going through. So if you're able to
right,
kind of
absolutely.
like shed a light on that kind of stuff, I think there's a lot of power to that,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
Yeah. But this is your Instagram here.
Oh, yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
tell me
yes,
about the
yes, it
CBC
is.
thing, man. You gotta tell me about the CBC story thing. I think that's
Oh,
cool.
oh, that's fun. Okay, that was a graphic design project at the beginning
Yeah.
of this year.
Yeah.
So right around the time that the violence on the TTC was getting really bad,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what I could do about it as an individual, but I had this idea, which was, "Hey, um, they've got all these posters and the CTC." The main thing was their response. Their response publicly was never, "Oh, we're gonna fix these problems, we're gonna do this to solve the violence," or even just, "We acknowledge the violence, we don't know what to do about it yet, but we're working on it." It
Mm,
was always, "Oh, just be more safe," or,
yeah.
"Oh, it's fine." It was never it was never a very satisfying answer. So at the peak of, I think, that frustration that everyone in Toronto was
Mhm.
feeling, I had this idea that I could make, print, frame, and distribute, I will say,
Right.
some TTC posters that looked very legitimate,
Yeah.
that
Does.
that give genuinely helpful, but unhelpfully sarcastic messages on the violence in the
Yeah.
system. So, a poster that says "Keep your distance" set over the image of a picture where there's no space
Yeah.
to do so,
Yeah.
with text that says, "You are responsible for your own safety on the TTC," because clearly we're not, is
Yeah.
basically the very fine print at the bottom,
Yeah.
for people who would look very close at the posters. The closer you read, then you start realizing that it's not real. I didn't want to genuinely trick anyone, but yeah. So I originally,
Looks really real though, yeah. If you weren't paying
thank
attention,
you.
it looks real.
I I originally intended to do this completely anonymously. I put together the posters.
Yeah.
I enlisted the help of a friend so that we could sneak into Young Station and get both sides of the station up at the same time. We dressed as construction workers with high vis vests because
Really?
ironically you are completely invisible in a large city if you have a high vis vest and clipboard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's
a
true.
side effect of an overrun system is that they can't stop people from putting up posters either.
Yeah,
We use some double side tape as to not really harm the tiles or anything. But yeah, we stuck
yeah.
up the posters, and Vlogzio was the first to
Yep,
pick it up.
yep,
That's a little
yep,
screenshot of it there.
yeah.
Um, Originally, like I said, I intended to be anonymous about it.
Then you went to
At some point,
CBC.
yeah, yeah. So CBC reached out. because my goal was to sort of drum up conversation about the whole issue, when the original article started to die down, I made an Ask Reddit thread on the Ask Toronto subreddit, saying like, "Hey, I'm the one who put up the posters," with an anonymous second account, and saying, "Hey, like, ask me about them." And through that, I had some people from CBC reach out. So originally, they were saying that I could be anonymous for the interview, although when I sort of got more into it, they were saying, "Hey, we only offer anonymity in genuine serious cases, like it is a 0 or 100."
Right.
So at that point, I made the call that, you know what, I think it's more important to get the message further, because the anonymity, it was to, maybe not be fined by the TTC for this,
Right.
but moreover, it was just because it's a bigger issue than myself. I didn't need my name on it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have this thing done and have them. Oops, sorry, my light just fell off there. I'm gonna put that back up.
So did you get in trouble with the
Uh,
TTC?
No, ultimately, in the end, I never had any contact directly from the TTC,
Okay.
myself. I got to read their responses to the article. They had interviewed, some individuals in the TTC as a part of, the original blog to article where,
Mm,
they had said it was in poor taste. I think it's in poorer taste to let people in your system come into harm's way, but I'll
yeah,
leave that be.
yeah,
So yeah, anyways, CBC had reached out. I was able to give that interview, and shortly after that, Global News reached out as well.
mhm,
An independent documentary film crew reached out, and that's hopefully coming out later this year, early
yeah,
next year. Um, yeah, so
interesting.
it was my little 15 minutes of fame in Toronto.
Huh,
It was a fun
very
time. I
interesting.
didn't need it to be about myself, but it was a fun few weeks there.
Well, I mean, it's I mean, it did get pretty nuts on the
Yeah,
TTC though for a while. Like it
and
was happening
the
every day.
yeah.
It was happening every day. It was crazy.
Exactly, and most importantly, since this, I don't think that I had any singular hand in this by any means,
Yeah,
but since the time of this, I think that the conversation that got started, not obviously not just from me, but that the conversation that this contributed to, I think really worked in the end. The
yeah,
TCC eventually implemented better systems, and we've seen that violence go a bit back down.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's it's not a perfect one to the other, but it's better than it was.
yeah. Man, those look real. They look really legit.
Putting those graphic design skills to use, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm surprised the TTC didn't want to hire you.
That would be fun. That would be a fun one to get out of this.
Imagine, imagine.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Kind of like the hacker going to work for like the NSA or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, do you? So I guess you still have these still framed
Um.
at your
No.
place.
No. 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 This was taken before I put them up.
Mm.
Um. So
You only
this
made
is a
two.
couple.
You only made two.
Yeah, I only made 2. That
Oh,
was all it needed. I wasn't confident enough that we could get the entire station postered before
wow.
someone caught us. So
Yeah.
our goal was to put 2 in the most high traffic area, sort of giving the implication that there were more around the space as well. So yeah, we got 2 right at
Wow.
the southbound entrance. It was on the Yonge platform,
Yeah.
right where the escalators come down if you're coming north back up. So we put it up in the morning with the idea that in the afternoon, everyone coming home from their commute was going to see it there.
Oh,
I know
nice.
that they made it to about 5 o'clock before being taken down.
Oh,
Uh, I figure they got taken down some point around when BlogTO reached out to the TTC for comment. That they probably sent someone to go check this thing out
yeah.
around that time. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I remember hearing from a friend that they were still there around 5. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Really well done though on that. I mean,
Thanks, thanks. So
I
then
think
that's
it
part
takes
of
a
what I'm
little bit of
talking.
courage to do that too. It
Yeah,
takes a little bit of courage because you never know like how people will respond to that, right?
yeah, of course. Hope for the best on that one. And
Yeah.
fortunately, the message was really received the way I intended it to be. I
Yeah.
think all the comments I saw anywhere on various social medias about that was all very. The message was understood in the way I intended it to be,
Yeah.
which is exactly what I could have hoped to ask for.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well done on that. And I mean, like this is Aiden's Instagram. So Aiden, do you have any photos that you want to point to that mean something to
Sure.
you that you're really proud of or
If anything, I might have you click through to my website. The link in the
yeah,
bio
okay.
there has my actual portfolio with work.
Yeah, let's do
There's a
that.
handful on my Instagram that are also in the portfolio, but the website's really where I keep like
Awesome.
my work. Um, it's just taking a second there.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, I'm not seeing it show up on
Oh, yeah.
the live stream cam. It may have opened in a different window,
Yeah.
but
Got it.
there we go. Oh, yeah, so my portfolio loads in a random order every time. I don't know what's gonna come next.
Oh, really?
I usually limit it to 50 images, but I got so obsessive over the order I was presenting them in that I decided to give up that control
Oh,
and
really?
just have, there's a little bit of a slider here. You get to see each image on black and white. Most
Cool.
of these are analog. If you hover over them, it will tell you what each was taken with.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
or if
yeah.
not what it
Very
was taken
cool.
with, it will tell you some information about the shoot, about the artist.
That's
So yeah,
cool.
like these are a handful of my favorite images. The one you've got on the right over there is Amon
Mhm.
Carpenter. He's a local musician that I was really fortunate to be able to do his album artwork for. This image is without the graphic design over the piece, so there's some awkward areas of negative space that were used for some of the graphic design in there. Somewhere else on my website, I've got the finals of that. But so that was one particular favorite shoot of the last couple of years.
Cool. Maybe on the projects?
Yeah, so the portfolio is where I just have my best of all time. The projects,
Got
I
it.
haven't updated this in a while. I'll have to add New York to here. I'll have to add a couple other
Yeah,
things.
no
These are
doubt.
just a few favorite series, whether it's a project I worked on for a
Mhm.
particular client or whether it was just a set of images I thought works well in a particular feed. Um,
Cool.
oh yeah, I've got some of my Xpan stuff in that post at the bottom there.
That's cool. That's a cool
That
photo.
was a oh
Yeah,
thanks.
they look like movie stills. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely. That was
Yeah, exactly.
I love cinematics as a concept just to have I don't do much cinema work, so I'm never really getting to do the actual cinematography, but I love stills that give the implication they give me movie stills.
Could be, yeah.
This one up top is just a sort of an opener for the thing. I've got a few more if as you scroll down that, have a bit more of that cinematic quality to them, hopefully. At
Mm,
least that's what I was aiming for
there
with
you
these,
go.
and
Yellow
it was
tag.
fun to get out of the niche of just portraiture, or as you can see with some of these, to be able to integrate portraiture into a more cinematic quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's, I really enjoy that camera, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt, eh? It looks good, man. It looks good. Like, it's
Thank you.
definitely got a mood, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
A mood to
So
it. That's cool. I like that. That's nice.
thank you.
How do you, get your ideas, or they just come to you?
Sometimes I'll have a fully formed idea for a shoot in my head before I start.
Yeah,
Sometimes it will be, really spur of the moment. It'll be something I see in the scene that gets me to set something up, and pretty consistently, my favorite shots, especially because, I'm working with film, I'm getting my stuff back a little bit later. My
right.
favorite shots are the ones I don't remember taking, or the
Huh,
ones that were quick little
interesting,
insert shots between different things so often turn into my favorite final images. Like,
interesting.
if you go back to that projects tab there, I can give you an example of a shoot that was, like, fully planned out. Um, I think it's just a on oh, yeah, the little project there it is at the top. Um, if you scroll down to that one, that Amon Carpenter shoot that I was mentioning from the front end portfolio, it might be a little ways. Oh, no, it'll be in that projects tab, but, um,
Here?
yeah, so that one there, that inside of that project, you can see, if you scroll down
Mm,
a little bit, this was a completely planned out shoot. I had fully sketched the entire final image ahead of time.
okay,
Here I have a little, illustration of,
that's
some
cool.
behind the scenes work. This one in particular, I put together to be able to show future, future album art clients exactly what I do with them in a studio space and future clients in general. You can literally see it right there. Um,
Man,
but
that's
yeah,
dope.
if thank you, thank you. If you scroll a little further here, you can see sort of exactly how everything was sort of roughed out and planned to come together for the
Wow.
various shots. And
Huh,
yeah, so this one was, and I do. It's interesting. I have a shot that looked identical to that sketch. That ended up not being the one we went with. We went with a slightly different angle. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So you can never really plan what you're going to use in the end. But this was an example of a shoot that was really rigidly planned out from beginning to end.
interesting.
And I'm happy with
Interesting.
the images from that, but
Yeah.
honestly, most of the time, I'm the happiest with the images that are really spur of the moment. You've got your camera around your neck, you turn, you catch something, you snap it, and you
Right.
get that developed later. You forget about it, you get it developed later, and that's your favorite
Yeah.
shot.
Then there's a nice surprise for you.
Exactly, exactly.
And this is the final?
There's 5 finals here as you scroll
Five
down.
finals, eh?
They were used for different singles within the project, and also, there's 2 albums that were being released, so this was one of them,
What kind of
with
music?
the,
What kind of music does he do?
this was sort of like alternative indie. Um, he shifted into doing a bit more acoustic stuff over the last little bit, but, it was also a lot of fun because it's right up my alley of music, right? So I'm
Mm,
very much my, sort of alt rock indie person, if you couldn't get
yeah,
that by
yeah,
looking at me. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but, yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, again, yeah. I mean, you could tell from. I wonder how many people go through this level of planning, though. You wonder.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, so I can't speak to what others regularly
Yeah.
do. Though it's nice to have a clear, concise plan laid out for you. Again, half the time I get this level of detail in my head before I start a shoot. Half the time I don't, and I go in with a reasonable degree of confidence that I can get what I'm looking for,
Right.
but with an open mind to particular compositions and images.
Yeah. I guess it also depends on like the vibe with the client too, right? Because if there's a
Oh,
good vibe, there's a
absolutely.
bad vibe. It's like whatever the vibe is, you can kind of get ideas off there too.
Exactly, exactly. That's just part of the process.
Yeah, it's all about the energy between the people and
Yeah,
seeing what
and
seeing what can be made.
exactly, and that like I was talking about, that's the connection component that's really my favorite part of it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
So
I think I like portraits because I like people. I like connecting with people, I like talking with them.
I love this time lapse that you did.
Oh, thanks, thanks.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
just set up the
Fun.
phone. Unfortunately, that pillar was right in the middle of most of the action, but
Yeah,
it gives a decent illustration of the shoot
no,
from
that's
start to
cool,
finish.
man. Cool. So yeah, I'll put Aiden's link in the description. You guys can go check it out and have a look see and yeah, man, it's good. You got your hand in all kinds of things, which is nice, right? Kind of keep things fun and fresh, and it's not the same thing every day.
Exactly, keep him busy.
Keeping busy as always. Yeah, man, we're kind of up against the hour, so thanks again for
Absolutely.
doing this. I love, I
Yeah,
love,
thank you so much for having me, Paul.
I'd love to have you back on at some point and see what you're up to, and maybe you can show some photos from New York too, which would be cool.
Sounds good, sounds
You
good.
must
I
be
look
so
forward
pumped.
to it.
Yeah, you must be so pumped to see your photos from New York, eh? Eventually.
Exactly, exactly. It's always an amazing thing getting scans back, starting to see those images for the first time, but, especially for something like this. I think I was saying before the show, I ran, 17 rolls through the Rolleiflex
Yeah,
in 5 days.
there
So
you
that
go.
was,
There you go.
that
Was
was a
that a
fun
record for
project.
you?
Yes, yes, that was. I had a previous record that was a client photo shoot where it was requested to be all on film, and I think I shot 10 rolls in 2 hours. So if you're
Oh,
talking about rolls per hour,
yeah,
sure,
rolls.
but rolls per project, this is definitely the highest.
Oh man, favorite part of New York for you personally?
Ooh,
Yeah, what's your favorite
favorite
part?
geographically or
Yeah,
favorite functionally?
geographically.
Okay, geographically, I really enjoyed Lower Manhattan.
Yeah,
Getting to walk around all the different neighborhoods around there. Um, Favorite part functionally, 2 things. Subway system, everyone's gonna answer that. I love the Toronto subway system as much as I can.
yeah.
Um, that New York subway system is something different. You plug in anywhere you're gonna go. Point A to point B is always 2 minutes to the nearest station, and 1 train magically gets you exactly where you need to go. Maybe
The
I just got
dream, isn't
lucky, but,
the dream, isn't it?
yeah. The other one is, very good pizza everywhere for cheap, or cheap-ish, whatever cheap is these days.
Cheap pizza that's good.
Oh, exactly. I think my favorite pizza I had I had bought I had bought, like, $30 pizza pies as a part of it as, part of the trip.
Yeah.
Um, I think my favorite pizza was, 3.25 from a bodega deli across from B&H.
Oh, yeah. Did you go in B&H? You did, right?
Oh, of course, you got to. You gotta make the pilgrimage out
You
to the
do.
center of
Did you
everything.
buy anything?
Mostly film. I only brought 10 rolls with me, I needed a little bit more, and, film is actually cheaper, on the whole. It's,
Interesting.
even with some of the local discounts you can get around Toronto, when you're not paying the US to Canada Kodak import tax, and you're just buying it in the country and with, lower local sales tax. It was quite decent getting getting a pack of Portra for
Mhm.
60 US instead of for 125 Canadian.
Oh, okay. That's good to know, eh? It's another reason to go to New York.
Yeah, yeah, it's lot of reasons, a lot of fun times, a lot of images. But yeah, no, another fun one. Film slightly cheaper.
Love it. Cool, man. Welcome back. Any final words, advice, thoughts for the audience that you want to share?
Yeah. I suppose if there's anything I could sum up from all the questions and you asked me all the answers I could give, at least my experience has been the best photography comes from connection with people. At
Mm,
least the best photography of people. Maybe it's a little harder for a
yeah,
landscape to connect with a landscape. I don't know, but the best portraits, the best photography comes from a genuine want for a genuine connection with the people involved.
yeah.
In fact, I'll try that one again so you get a clean audio bite of that, which is my best advice I can give is the best portraits come from the best connections with people.
Right,
You're
right.
always going to get the best out of someone by being genuinely interested and involved with
Yeah.
them. And I don't know, that's my favorite thing to do.
It's a good point because, like we said earlier, like you want to be real with people. So like do it because you want to do it, and not do it for like the likes or like the social validation of it, which I think a lot of people fall into. So depends on your angle with it. But if you're able to be real with people, I think you get a lot more like out of the actual experience versus just like a random like on Instagram, right? So you know,
Exactly, exactly. And that stuff is great. It's great to have those feelings of validation.
yeah, of
Uh, yeah,
course.
it's better
We
to
all
have
want it.
better to have those real
We all want it.
connections.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think it's a little bit more meaningful in like the long run because that's what you'll remember from your time in New York, having those conversations with people, and
Absolutely,
those
exactly.
and
You got
those
it.
and those and those and those are the memories that you'll have, right? Which is priceless in in my opinion. So
No, absolutely, you've got it.
yeah. Cool, Aiden. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Really fascinating conversation, and I
Absolutely.
hope to
Thanks
have
so
you
much for
back
having
on,
me.
man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I would look forward to that.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for watching, listening. Go check out Aiden in the links below, and if you're in the Toronto area, go check him out at Aiden's store, at the camera store. We'll see you next time. Have a great evening.